Welcome everybody, this will be a tutorial for the FS-UK Wiki. Be sure to check out that website. I'll post a link in the description for a good selection of written tutorials and a few video ones as well. I'm trying to work on the video ones there. Anyway, let's get into this. Have you ever wondered how that works? Or how this works? Well, you've come to the right place. We will get you set up with some basic animations on your map, and from there you should have enough knowledge to go on and make your own customized animations or basically be able to install any animation on any map. So let's get started. Alright, the first step you want to do is find the animated object. I won't cover importing objects into a map. I'll assume that you already know how to do that. So once you get the animated object in the map, you can also, in case you don't see the light, to make it easier to select a light, you can go up here to View and then Show, and you can click Lights. And then you will be able to see all the light sources on a map. Those red circles are audio sources. We could have turned those off for this tutorial, but I left them on. Anyway, let's get back here to the basic lights, and then we'll cover doors. So lights, if you look at the parent transform group for lights, you'll see how it says Workshop Strip Light 1. And then you have to have this user attributes window enabled. If you don't have it or don't see it, you go up here to click Window User Attributes. Anyway, you'll see that there are a few things here under user attributes. You have an index, you have an onCreate, and then animated object.onCreate, and then you have an XML file name, which directs you to an animated objects.xml file. So, how those all work together, let's head into the Sandy Bay map that is already unzipped for me. We will go into maps, and you'll look for that exact same animated objects.xml, which is under maps/animated objects, right? We just saw that. Maps/animated objects. One quick note, this gave me a lot of trouble. Don't add a backslash there. Otherwise, for some reason it works in single player, but when it is zipped up, it does not work. It basically thinks that there's two backslashes there and it's a broken file path. Anyway, onward and upward. So, if we open up animated objects, let's look for that index. Remember, it said Workshop Strip Light 1. Hey, there it is, Workshop Strip Light 1. So, that's the first lesson. Everything that is an animated object, it has to have something in the animated objects, right? This file, it has to have a reference. That reference is the index, Workshop Strip Light 1. The index is the first step. Let's just go on down through these different things. You can see that you have controls. We'll get to that category in a second. Then you have sound file, which will play whenever you activate the trigger. And then you have the actual animation part itself. So you see that you can adjust the time, you can adjust duration, and then you can look at the parts. This is probably the most important part of the actual animation itself. So if you look here, it says part node 1, 0. That is the, right there, it's the index lever of the actual light switch. So if you find an animated object that has good documentation, I typically always go to a map maker that knows what they're doing, and I look at how they had it set up. That's how I figured out how all this works. So that's what I'm showing you today. Anyway, we will look here, and it says index lever of the light switch. So part node 1, 0. So if we look here, we will see part node 1, 0. Light switch, right? 1, 0. That is the lever. That is the actual lever that turns. And if you look on here, it is index 1, 0 because this is the parent object. So this is index 0. This is index 1. And then that takes care of the first part of that, right? And then you have the horizontal slash, which means go on to a child group. And so the 0 is right there, the lever 02. So that is the part that this node is telling to move. So look, it'll say keyframe time. So at time 0, it's going to be not rotated. At time 1, it'll have a rotation of negative 90 degrees. So you can actually go into the game, hit that lever, and where is our attribute? So we can go down here to look at, now I've moved it a little bit, but if we look, negative 90 is going to be to the right. And if you remember, when I operated it in the game, it moved negative 90. It went to the right, if you remember from when I operated it in the game. Anyway, that is how a basic animation works. some other important parts, right? So I remember I always said we'd get back to these. So this is what the mod desk uses to tell you what buttons to press and what text is displayed. So if you look up here for pause key and then pause text and negative or negate text, the light switch click. Well, I can't talk today. The light switch. I did it again. Let's just go back to the mod desk and I'll show you what I mean. So this is the very well put together mod desk for Sandy Bay. If you look in here on 110 text, right, you see two things. You see input bindings and then you see text. So up here, text, you might recognize, not door, light switch click. So input _ light switch click. So if we go back here, right there, input light switch click. So you can set this to be different based on the position of the current switch. You could say, turn on or turn off, and that way you can reference different things over here in the menu, or you can both make them to say the same thing, right? So here, he put light switch on / off under input light switch click. So that's telling you anytime you see this keyword, input _ light switch click, it will display this text in the F1 help box. And if you look over here under the positive key, right, the key, what do you think that's going to stand for? Light switch _ click. If we go down here, light switch, man, I cannot talk today. I'm sorry, guys. Light switch _ click, category on foot, so you have to be on your foot. And then you go over button 3 or the mouse button left. So I believe that refers to a joystick or a gamepad, and mouse is mouse button left. So if you walk up to that light switch like I did in game, I press the left mouse button, that trigger will operate. And this light switch, it'll say that in the F1 menu. Now, one other very important thing, if you consider, well, so I go into a game, I operate all these, I save it, and then I exit the game. How the heck does the game know what position these are to be in? Well, that answer is simple. There are a lot of things stored in not default vehicles. For that, we need to go to the save game that I just saved. It is right here under vehicles. Now, more than just vehicles, it also stores the position of several things like animated objects and animated objects. So doors, gates. I'm trying to find the light, but that's not really important right now. If we go back to the actual map, this is the easiest way to explain this part. So say I want 2 of these light switches, right? So if I duplicate this entire parent transform group, I now have a second light group that I can add anywhere in the map. So if I wanted to reposition everything individually, right? Say I want another light over there somewhere. I'd have to go through and move all those triggers individually. Of course, that looks ugly, but just for practical purposes, right now you're going to get a problem because the group right here, workshop strip light 1, that does not always have to match the index. The index is what needs to match something in the animated object file. So for example, I can change this parent transform group to anything else. So let's change it to workshop strip light 2. So putting that all together, in case that wasn't clear, the index has to reference something on the animated object XML, right? So the index can actually be the same for multiple objects, because what's going to happen is when the game launches, this transform group is going to say, hey, this is an animated object. Look here in this file. Look here for this index number. The other animated, where was it? The other animated object, it has a different name, right? But it's still going to reference the same index. It's still going to create an animated object, and it's going to look here for that index. So as long as that index matches something on this animated objects file, you are fine, as long as the name is different than any other animated object name. Otherwise, the game won't crash or anything, but you will get an error in the log saying, hey, you have a duplicate animated object, and then it'll give you the name of that duplicate. And that's because, what I already explained, when it goes to try to save, it'll try to save, how do you know which one is which, right? Like if those were different values, how do you know which one's on and which one's off? That it doesn't work. So that's why you have to have different names on this file, on the name over here on the parent transform group, but each animated object can reference the same item, rather index, in the animated object.xml file. So let's just look at gates real quick. So if you notice that it says keyframe right, time 1, and so it's talking about visibility, right? So this was the switch. It's actually turning the switch because it says it rotates. If you look at the time, this is visibility false and visibility true. So that is actually saying, okay, so let's look at this. So 2 vertical slash 0. So if you remember how indexes work, if we go to our light, so 0, 1, 2. Remember, they always start at 0. It counts from 0. So 0, 1, 2. This is the light. And then we have the slash, horizontal slash, or vertical slash, sorry. And then a number 0, which means that is the first item in that group. So this is going to be toggled between false and true. The same thing down here. This is going to be node 3, 0. So that's the very bottom one. 3, 0 is this one. This is going to be toggled visible between true and false. So if you want to play around with lights a little bit, you can actually add multiple lights, right? Like you could, one way to do it is you could just duplicate this, and then, so that will be, let's make it simple. So that will be 0, 1, 2, 3. So that's still 3, but instead of 3, 0, it'll be 3, 0, 1, 2. So if I wanted to make a duplicate light somewhere and also render that one visible, now you have to be careful what you do because I only duplicated the light itself. I didn't actually duplicate the object. Anyway, if we go back into the animated object XML, so I would just copy and paste this part, and should we just be able to do that? And oops, I guess I didn't do all of that. Oh, it's kind of getting ugly there. All right, well, that didn't work out the greatest. Sorry about that. Okay, so that would be 0 or 3 underscore, what did I say? 2, right? Because 0, 1, 2, 3, so it's 3 horizontal, I keep saying horizontal, vertical slash 0, 1, 2. So 3, 2. And so we got to change that to 3, 2. That's what I have. So that would toggle that part false and true. Now, another way you could do it is you could set up, right? Because this whole node is toggling between visible and true. And if you have a parent that is, here, we'll just do it right here in the editor. So where's attributes? If you look at attributes, what happens to all those lights when I check the visibility box? They all go away. Not just the parent, the children go away. So you could actually set up multiple lights inside the same, right, inside the same group. And if the visibility is on, you see all the lights there, right? When the visibility of the parent goes off, they all disappear. So instead of setting this up with multiple subparts, you could actually just leave it as it was originally and get it to work where it would render the parent visible and true, and then that would take care of every child in there. And that's the easiest way probably to make multiple lights. And then you could still have this reference multiple sections of lights because it doesn't care how many children this node has. It'll just turn them all off and all on, whether there's 1 light or 50 lights. So that's the way that light bulbs work. Gates work similar to, right, this one, remember how it rotated? If you look up here, you can kind of see how they worked, right? So you have a double gate, and then you have, okay, well, what's a double gate going to do? It's going to move all these different parts, and it's going to move them based on the rotation here. So you could actually walk through this to look at, I don't know where is the closest double gate. Well, this is a single gate. So this one, is that a single gate? It is a single right-handed gate. So that is the name, right? And then you have, that is the parent object with the name. So again, the index, so that's what you need to look for in the animated object. That's where it finds the animated object XML. So you could actually have multiple animated object XMLs, but that gets confusing and not recommended. But anyway, the visible gate, that's just the one that has to be a different name. And as you can see, This one is visible gate 6. So he probably has visible gates 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then who knows however many more. Anyway, the point is, it works basically the same way. Single right-hand gate. That's what we're looking for in the animated object. Where is single right-hand gate? Right there. And then, so this is what tells every single right-hand gate on the map how to work. And then it doesn't matter if they are all different, right? There we go. Visible gate 10. That's a perfect example. So these gates both work based on this. But because they are different names, they'll save separately in the vehicles file without any errors. And again, just to recap, those things at the top of the animated object, so the positive key, so that's what happens when you press a key, and that is referenced. Here, let's exit out of that one to make it easier. So that is referenced right here, right? Input bindings. That is the key. So gate_move. Gate_move. And now he's made it really convenient, so there's not 50 different keybinds being added in your map. He's made it, look at this, double gate 1, gate move. Single right hand gate, gate move. Single left hand gate, gate move. And then the double one, I believe, was also gate_move. So he's using the exact same key in the mod desk to control multiple animated object triggers, but they are all different animated objects. And kind of the same thing up here under the 110, you have input animated object close door and open door. And so for the gate, now this is what I was talking about earlier. He combined the gate, he put the positive and negative together so that no matter what happens, however you interact with the gates, it's going to say open and close. However, if you look at the doors, if the door is open, let's just go to the door real quick. Input animated object open door, which is, where is that one at? All right, the doors are actually on a different animated object. And as you see, I just kind of got confused there. If you know what you're doing and you're making your own map, that's fine. It's actually sometimes easier to keep things separate. But in this example, I just got confused because I didn't know. And I missed the shed part there. Anyway, so if we look on animated object shed, if we go to the shed, you can see here for door left, door right, door, which one was it? Animated object door close, right? Okay, so they're all over this XML. So animated object door close door is different from animated object open door. So he has different keys for open and closing, which means on the mod desk, you have to have different keys for opening and closing. And also you have to have different 110 text for opening and closing. Is it L10 or 110? I can never tell. I think it's L10. I've always called it 110 because I've never looked at it. Anyway, so just to recap one last time, because I know it messed me up several times, the item that needs a different name is over here, visible gate 6. It is the item that has the onCreate attached to it. That is the thing that needs a different name. If you look up here, the parent group for this entire object does not need a different name. It is a parent. It does not have any onCreate attached to it. The gate itself, not anything else inside, just the gate itself that has this attached to it, needs a different name. So again, I know I did this with the lights, not to beat a dead horse, but if I were to duplicate that and put it somewhere else, then I would have to do visible gate. I don't know what number he's on, so to be safe, I'll just do 555, whatever. That's a little bit excessive, but that one is not going to generate an error now. However, I just did something dumb. You see how I didn't duplicate this? I duplicated that. That's an example of a bad thing. So you want to be sure to duplicate the entire object and then drag it somewhere else. And then remember to, wherever the animated object on create, wherever that user attributes are created, that's what has to be a different name. So let's do 555 again. There we go. And sometimes pressing the enter key helps. If you click out of that box without pressing enter, sometimes that doesn't always take. So just be sure to press enter there. And that should just about do it for animated objects. I think I have basically restated everything about 3 or 4 times. Feel free to leave any comments or questions that you have in case I missed anything. One last thing, while I use the example of Sandy Bay, it's best to get your mods direct from the Mod Hub website. It not only helps out the creators, but you know that they are completely done right. I just use the example of another map because it helps you understand how they are set up. So if you look in here, I just clicked out of the window. If you look in here, there are instructions for basically everything. So he has everything listed in the animated objects XML. So you can either copy and paste these individual parts, you can copy and paste this entire thing, or you can just drag that entire XML file. Where the heck did I go? You can drag that entire XML file into your map folder and then just redirect it like I showed you right there. So just wherever you drag it, make sure that directory lines up. And where else was I going with that? And then the mod desk is right there, and that will have the input bindings and the L10 text, we'll call it, to put in your own mod desk. So don't copy from other maps if you can avoid it, where there are great mods available here. You know they're done right, they're not edited, and Dorset is an awesome guy, so you should support him as much as possible. And be sure to rate 5 stars. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Bye.